Have you ever thought about the idea of another company getting into the console gaming space? Like, would we ever have a new platform holder enter the scene? Because it's been a long time since they've had one enter that's actually been meaningful with Microsoft. And as they came in, Sega went out, and that was more than 23 years ago now. It just hasn't really felt like a market that everyone wants to jump into immediately with a serious push to sit alongside the big three right now, that being Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. However, something interesting seems to be going on behind the scenes right now, and there is a company that might actually make a push, and based on what they've done so far with their handheld, they actually might have something here because they've already built out one of the hardest parts about launching a platform, and they've done it with incredible success. And I wanted to go over why Valve could actually make a console. Well, we seem to be having some evidence mounting around this, and we're going to talk about it here today. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that like button, subscribe if you're new. We're going to start today with this video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Hero Wars. Thanks to an epic collaboration between Paramount Pictures and Nexters, your favorite heroes in a half shell are joining the world of Dominion. That's right, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have arrived in Hero Wars. Get ready to dive into exciting battles alongside the Turtles, since this is way more than just a new character drop. It's an all-out adventure you don't want to miss. From December 2nd to December 21st, Hero Wars is running a special event featuring the Ninja Turtles, so don't miss your chance to bring the Turtles into your squad for free. Yep, you heard that right. You can get the Turtles without spending a penny. Also be on the lookout for limited time offers, including exclusive Shredder and Casey Jones skins that'll power your heroes up like never before. You can jump into the action however you like. Download Hero Wars on your iOS or Android mobile device, or play it right in your browser on the next tab. Check out the link in the description below and act fast to add the Ninja Turtles to your party today. Thanks to Hero Wars for sponsoring today's video. All right, so we're heading over here to Reddit, and this is a post that some people were sending me, and I've been keeping an eye on this because, in general, it's been discussed at length of Valve maybe making a push into the console space, and it's interesting to think because we look at Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony now in three different lights. Nintendo merging handheld and console with the hybrid setup that's worked incredibly well for them. Microsoft moving away from just focusing on one box and trying to turn Xbox into just an ecosystem on its own, just one big platform that, yes, can transcend the idea of console exclusivity, to where we have Xbox first-party games on PlayStation and on Nintendo. So the only one that I really look at right now is still just a traditional box that you buy and put under your TV. I mean, it's Sony, like the PlayStation 5, and even they seem like they're exploring a bit more outside of just that box. So Valve working into this space with their own Steam box would be kind of interesting just to see what this might do to Sony and Microsoft specifically, which we'll get to here soon. But this all really started to pick up steam recently, and that was over on Reddit as people were noticing, as they say, changes in the Steam Deck kernel. Now, this was over on the Steam Deck subreddit, and then it was relayed over, I believe, to like the gaming leaks and rumors, so it's been kind of making the rounds. But in this case, as a Valve employee that is testing HDMI CEC for a new device, which you would use that for a standalone box, sure, but the idea is it can talk back and forth to your HDMI compliant TV. All right, and as they say, interestingly enough, it appears to share at least some hardware similarity to Google Chrome OS devices. Now, there's been some discussion around that, as maybe it has to do more or less with the testing suite that they have in place. As it says, they're benchmarking an AMD 8540U. Now, this is an APU that's found in like mid-range laptops, ones that aren't necessarily set up as the ones that look like they're absolutely gaming, like serious laptops with the massive GPU strapped to the side of it. Like, it's not that level. It's like your HP Pavilion, like somewhat upper echelon of that, right? So like the $800 laptop that has like the media stuff, and that's kind of where this chipset falls in line with, and it's not out there playing games at 100 some odd frames per second, 4K resolution. It's very refined in that measure, but as we're seeing them apparently use this for benchmarking, they are turning in scores that are quite a bit higher than the Steam Deck right now, and you would expect that for the single reason really being it's not constrained by really thermals at that point, and it's not constrained by your power. So the battery doesn't matter in this case. It's plugged in. It can set clocks to whatever it can handle basically with whatever heatsink they're attaching to it. But still, the Steam Deck, 1300 to 1400 range is single core for Geekbench. You can see it's more than double that. And the GPU is even more interesting as it's like 3.5 times the score that it's turning in for Geekbench. Now with 8540U, you could technically be benchmarking and testing this stuff, as is mentioned here with the AMD Lilac. And some of the thoughts around that is this would be like almost a prototype or platform board that they're using, and that they have plans to maybe move to a different board that's their more finalized design. And the 8540U could just be to test maybe the CPU from it, the GPU from it. Valve, if you remember with the Steam Deck, they did partner like outright with AMD to create the chip specifically for the Steam Deck. I would expect the same kind of thing if they were indeed going to make their own like Steam box or Steam machine. We'll touch on that in a minute too. But with the 8540U, you could test the CPU or you could test the GPU and maybe use similar architecture or whatever you need to from that chip to then move into your custom chip. And you could be testing it for a number of things. Power draw. You could be testing it for what kind of clock speeds could you run here with something similar to that. You could be checking thermals. So there's a lot of stuff you might be just testing. It seems like this is more of a behind-the-scenes look at R&D that's going on, but it seems like, yeah, Valve in general is working on something, platform codenamed AMD Lilac, something going on back there, maybe with developing an SoC or an entire new system. Now, what's funny is I saw this pointed out, I think Brad did over on Twitter X, that next year will be the 10-year anniversary for when Valve really did make a push back in the day to try to become more and more of a hardware company alongside of their, just sheer dominance on PC gaming, that marketplace. The loyalty to Steam is incredible for the user base. And a lot of it is just, hey, you know what? This platform is so well built. There's so many features to it. It's like, why would you have your game library built anywhere else? And I can understand that, but it is really to the point where Epic will give away free game after free game after they're just giving games away, not even bad games, like full price AAA titles on their platform, their storefront, and people still won't go over there. Like, they've given away, I have to imagine, more than 100 games probably at this point since their inception, and people are just like, "No, I'm good. I'm over on Steam. It's cool." And it does kind of in a way remind me of the idea that the consoles are so entrenched now. So if you're a PlayStation gamer using the PS5 or PS4 or whatever, you've built up your friends list there. You've built up your history of trophies and other things to where you're good. You'll just hang out there. Even if there's a really good game on Xbox that you want to play, well, I'm good over here. That's kind of how it's been. And we see Microsoft make the push now to PlayStation, maybe realizing that. So I do wonder if Valve, if they made another Steam machine, which it's funny, the Alienware Alpha here. I try to get a bigger blown up picture of it, which this one is like way blown up. Look at this thing. But I was looking at this, kind of reflecting a bit on it. I don't know if you guys remember these things, the Steam machines. It was a half-step measure by Valve. They partnered with other companies, in this case Dell, and they used the Alienware branding, which makes sense. It's a gaming-centric device here. I've been wanting to get one of these, by the way, to do a video on it because I thought it was at least an interesting device from the hardware side of things. But when you booted it up, it didn't have like a Steam OS on it. It ran Windows, which this is the biggest thing that Valve, I think, can take advantage of here. Windows is good at your desk. It is. It's a good operating system. Look, I know some people are like, use Linux, use Mac OS. Look, Windows controls like 90% of just software, yes, but operating systems in general across the board for a reason. It works really well for gaming, and that has, okay, maybe the slice of the pie has gone more and more towards Steam OS or Linux or anything like that, but Windows is typically what people load up when they build a custom PC, sure. But it's not great for the living room, and it's not great for handhelds. Still, like, you feel like Microsoft would have at least started to work on that more and more and accelerate that. Valve actually has an OS, Steam OS, that is good for handhelds, which the way it's set up kind of makes me think then, because remember, that is still a controller you're using, that it would actually translate over well to the big screen in the living room. Like, that is, I think, one of the big hurdles, and the fact that these things weren't cheap. Like, they were nowhere near competitive with consoles. Yes, you could do more with them, but when you sit down in the living room, typically you're sitting down to either watch Netflix, a Blu-ray, like some kind of media, or you're there to play a game. You're going to pick up a controller, start it, and go. Like, that's it. But they were like, oh, it's Windows. You could do Excel spreadsheets on the TV in the living room. It's like, great. Can't wait to kick up the feet on the recliner and do that. But with the Alienware Alpha, it was okay. Some of them were severely underpowered for the money you were putting out. But if Valve shows up, if they created a box like this, but it had SteamOS and it had a custom chip that was more or less geared towards the idea of just playing games on maybe for a 4K set, but I would assume if Valve was serious and they wanted to get it at a good price point, 1440p and then maybe upscale up 1080p and upscale up to 4K, that would probably be the method to really tap into that mainstream. I think it would have to show up at a $400 price point, and that would be tough. But they got the Steam Deck down to $400, so when I was thinking about that, I said, you know what, maybe there is an avenue for them to show up here because they don't have to worry about a screen or a battery, or they could probably do other cost-cutting measures in like fabrication and development of the hardware. And maybe they could come out with a 400, and then maybe they come out with like a 5 or 600, and then they allow you to upgrade parts of it. That's the other thing. PC gaming, they're used to being able to upgrade all kinds of stuff. I don't think that's what you would get here. But maybe there's a door you can open to get to an NVMe slot and upgrade the storage all you want, right? Maybe you can get to the RAM. But eventually, Valve has to, I think, put up a roadblock and say, look, we have hardware that needs to be there. It's expected to be there. So maybe the RAM speed can't be changed or stuff like that. That's what they've done with the Steam Deck. Yes, it's all soldered to the board, so you're not really able to do much anyway, but you can at least change out the storage. And I kind of think if they created this box at, say, the $400 mark, and they present it as an extension of your already incredibly powerful gaming PC, as many of their customers have, or comparable, decent enough gaming PCs, even if they're just playing League of Legends or Counter-Strike or something, or Dota, you still have at least a PC that can handle 3D graphics, right? But if it's an extension of that to the living room, and then maybe they introduce a new Steam controller, the follow-up Steam Controller 2, and it's paired with it, I mean, at that point, they'd kind of be in the console space, wouldn't they? They would have their own storefront that goes between platforms. They have a handheld with the Steam Deck, a console, and they have a SteamOS that continues to grow, and at this point, might even be branded for non-Valve hardware. As in, oh yeah, if HP wants to make something, they can use SteamOS. Kind of like how Windows is branded and set up for their own OEM, like different manufacturers. Maybe HP, Dell, Lenovo wants to make a gaming device, and they want to use SteamOS. Also, keep in mind, both Microsoft and Sony have been moving their games more and more to Steam. Microsoft's basically, I think, okay with the idea of a Valve console playing their games, as it seems like they're looking to spread out even further. They've already put games on PlayStation and Nintendo systems. But Sony, I don't know if they'd be as excited if all of a sudden a console showed up for the living room that can play things like God of War or Horizon or Helldivers 2. They have been making a bigger push as they've gone along for PC, and this one might catch them off guard a bit here. So I'm curious how Sony specifically would deal with something like this. Now, it would have to gain serious traction, I think, for Sony to look at it and be like, hold on a minute, but who knows? I mean, Valve, they're not exactly small. It's interesting to watch Valve kind of grow and evolve outside of just their storefront, which is basically has a stranglehold on the entire market at this point in terms of PC gaming. But if they build out with hardware like this, I would be very intrigued, and I'm kind of hoping that's something they have set up for next year, especially as we see more and more information get out there through these through like the findings that are happening here on like the data mining and stuff for this board and CPU that they're testing, and even just other information that seems to get out there through people who are kind of keeping their ear to the ground when it comes to Valve. But definitely keep this in mind heading into 2025, because the way Valve handled the Steam Deck, yes, information got out a little before they made the announcement for the most part. It's like, hey, here's the Steam Deck. It'll be shipping and out in a couple of months. Kind of thinking that's the same way they would go about an extension of Steam, their ecosystem. Hey, here's the Steam, what do you call it? The Steam Box? Steam Deck? Steam Box? Maybe. I don't think you use Steam Machine anymore. I feel like that branding is done. Like it's going through it. So we'll say Steam Box. Steam Deck, Steam Box, and then just Steam on your PC. I think there's something there for Valve to really grow into and take advantage of on the hardware side. And I'd be all for it. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Would you be interested in picking up a Steam Box that is at least kind of capable, we'll say, of some of the big AAA games even already in your Steam library, but something you could play in the living room, in your bedroom, places where maybe that big gaming tower doesn't fit in as well. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.